I'll go over a few different things to get started. One thing I want to do is save my project. So there's, similar to like our PSD file or our AI file, there's it's called a AUP. It's an Audacity file, and it's similar that it's gonna save all your layers, all your edits, all your effects, and things like that. So if we hit Command S, it's actually telling me, this is an Audacity project, not an audio file, so you can't like play this on your phone or on a website or something like that. We have to export that, but we'll do that later. And so it's going to bring up this dialog. I'm going to click on the arrow and go to the desktop, go to MMP 100. And so I'll call this audio project 1. And I'll just call this edit 1. And so if I go back to my Finder and go to the desktop, MMP 100, audio project 1, there we can see our file. And so if we want to make sure we have this file so we can go back and edit it later. So that's like our PSD file. Okay, so as far as the Audacity interface, there's a bunch of different menu items up here that we'll get to. The main playback interface is here. There's the play button, record, loop on or off button, pause button, etc. So let me actually record something so we can see how this works. So I'll just record my voice. All right, so I am recording my voice to use as an example for this Audacity demo. That should be good enough. Okay, so that's what my waveform is going to look like. There's two of them. What?
Why did you get your waveform to look like that? Mine just looks like little squared out.
What does it look like?
Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, because you're not. Yeah, because it's quiet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the louder you talk, the bigger these like waveforms are going to be. So like here we can see that's like a silence or a quiet part, and then you can see the different words I was saying in those different chunks. So I can play back if I just hit the green play button. Okay, if I'm playing, I can hit stop, and it'll stop. Or if I hit pause, it'll pause in place. Then I can rewind or fast forward. And then I can also loop, but I have to make a selection first. So to do that, I can click on the timeline here. And you can see the numbers represent seconds. And so if I make a little selection, like let's say I want to edit like this part right here. And I have the loop toggled. Now it's just going to play that part. So that's kind of annoying, but so I'll turn the loop off. So there's the two monitors. So the monitor with the microphone is when I'm actually recording, and then the monitor is the speaker is when I'm playing back. And you can see the scale, 0 over here is actually the loudest part in decibels. And then negative, whatever, infinity over here is quiet. So when I'm playing this back, it's mostly green, so that's good. If you see yellow or red, that means it's too loud, it's going to be distorting. So when you're recording, you want to make sure that level is always green. If you see yellow a little bit, that's okay. But if you see a lot of red, then you're recording too loud and you need to lower the recording input. So I didn't have that issue, but I can try to demonstrate it. I'm going to mute this track and make it a little bit smaller and record again. So my input volume is here. So if I record at 1 0.0. That's the highest. Let's see if I can get it to clip. So now, okay, so actually you can see it's clipping like basically the entire time, which is not good. So anytime it's red, it's going to sound distorted when I play it back, and I don't want that. So I can delete this section, just hitting the delete button. So then I want to lower this. If I have it too low, like if I have it down here, it's going to be really quiet, and so the playback won't be very good. So the default was around 0.67, I think, like 2/3. So that's probably pretty good. I'll leave it there. Although it is pretty quiet if you look at this, it's not really going above 0.5 ever. So it's a pretty quiet recording. I might want to try like 0.8 or something like that. So you can play around with that. It depends on the environment you're in. So there's a lot of noise in this room. Just because we're in like a big building, we can hear like some air happening. You know, there's different sounds going on. And so I'm not going to be able to record very loud because it's going to start to get distorted. But if you're recording in like the podcast booth or a sound booth or something like that, you can record louder. You can record your voice louder because there's less noise. So that's the monitoring. We can also change. I'll go over the tools in a second. So there's a bunch of stuff. All these different magnifying glasses are really useful. If I hit the plus, obviously it zooms in on the waveform. If I hit minus, it zooms out. I'm going to go back to the beginning. If I hit this button that has the two arrows on the side, it's going to fit my audio to the window, so that's useful. This one is going to fit my selection. So if I have a selection here, select the audio. Oh, I guess I have to select the audio. So if I select some audio with my mouse, and then I click that, it's going to zoom into that selection. So that's pretty useful. There's a couple key commands I can use to do this as well. If I hold, I think, Option, Alt, no, Control maybe, no, Command. Okay, if I hold Command and use my scroll wheel, I'll zoom in and out. If I hold Shift and use my scroll wheel, I'll move back and forth. Let's see if there's another. Okay, if I hit Command F, it's going to fit my project. So if I zoom in a lot and I want to zoom out, I can hit Command F. Or if I zoom like that, I hit Command F. I can also do Command 1 to zoom in and Command 3 to zoom out. And let's see what this one is. And selection is Command E to zoom to selection. So when you're editing, those are going to be useful tools to be aware of. Let's see. So let's get some more audio in here, or actually, let's go over manipulating the actual track, and then I'll go over the tools in a second. So when you record a track, you get what looks like this. You can see there's two components because I recorded in stereo. So normally we record things in stereo. Obviously, we hear things in stereo. We have two ears, and it helps us. It helps us with positionality. So if we hear something over there, it's going to be louder in this ear. So our brain is going to be able to say that thing is over there. If you do like VR or play video games with headphones on, they use audio positionality to tell you stuff about what's happening in the game. So we record in stereo. You don't have to record in stereo. We'll probably download some sounds that are not recorded in stereo, so we'll see what that looks like. You'll just have one track, and it plays the same in both sides. We won't really be able to hear this because the way the speakers in the room are positioned, but you can pan between the different sides. You can hear it better if you have headphones on. So that's why we have two different waveforms. We can make this track bigger or smaller visually by just dragging up and down. So if you have a lot of tracks, you might want to make them smaller so you can see them all. If you really want to get into the detail of the audio, you might want to make it bigger so that you can see the waveform better. So you can just drag. You have to move your mouse and get this little like arrowy line thing. You can drag it up and down. You can mute the track. So if I mute and play, we're not going to hear anything. You can also click solo. This will mute everything else. So if you just want to listen to one track for a second, you can use the solo button. volume is here, so that's called gain. That's how much volume gets added to the original recording. So if I turn the gain way up, this is probably going to sound bad. It's probably going to be distorted. So I am recording. So you can hear that distortion. At a certain point, if we're putting more volume in, it goes, it gets distorted. It goes past how much the computer can actually play. If we turn this all the way down, it's going to be quiet, so we don't hear it. So you can change the volume of individual tracks using a gain. And then this right-left is the pan. So if I go all the way to the right, you may be able to hear that it's in one of the speakers and not the other. If I go to this one, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. But if you have headphones on, you can use the pan and listen to that. Let's see, what does this one do? Okay, that makes it smaller. So if I want to just collapse the track real quick, and then if I want to select all of the audio, I can click on this select button. I can also just double click on the track to do that. That's going to be useful for applying effects, which we'll probably do on Thursday. And then I have some options in this drop down. So right now we're looking at the waveform, which, as we talked about before, it shows the amplitude or the loudness of the sound over time. But we can also look at the spectrogram. This shows us different frequencies. And so this is another way to view sound. You can see, this is basically my voice. You can see there's lower frequencies down here and higher frequencies up here. If somebody who had a lower voice than me was speaking, it would be more concentrated down here. If somebody had a higher voice than me was speaking, it would be more up here. So this shows us the different frequencies. So 0 is like down here somewhere. So 0 would be no sound. And then up here, you can see this goes up to 19,000. But remember, if we looked at it, what we can hear goes from 20 to 20,000. So the peak frequencies of what we can actually hear are all the way up here. And so this makes sense. My voice is kind of in this like lower range here. Whereas if I was recording like, I don't know, like a flute or something like that, it would probably be like up here somewhere. So most of the time we're editing, we'll probably use the waveform. But there are times when you want to look at the spectrogram of frequencies that are part of the recording. I can also look at them both if I want to. And so you can see if I look at both at the same time that the waveform and the instances of sound in our spectrogram kind of match. And they're visualized differently. Like in the spectrogram, it uses black to represent that there's no amplitude. And the brighter the color, so going from blue to yellow, that means there's higher amplitude. So we can see two different types of information. We can see the frequencies in the vertical axis. Then there's time in the horizontal axis again. And then there's also loudness represented as color. So where it's black, that means there's no loudness. There's no frequency there. And then the brighter the color, the louder that frequency is. And you can actually edit these frequencies. We probably won't do that right now, but we might do that later. So I'm going to go back to waveform view. We can change the wave color. So it gives us a few different options for colors, I guess, if we want to see things as different colors. Maybe you have like a color for your music and a different color for your voice or something like that. We can switch the stereo channels. We can also split into two channels, two mono channels if we want. And then we can change the format, 16, 24, and 32, and also the sample rate. So if we change the sample rate, it's going to distort the sound. So if I recorded at 44.1, if I change this to like 96, it's going to make the track smaller, and you're going to hear it's going to make my voice sound like a chipmunk. So I don't really want to do that, but if I wanted to change the sample rate but keep the same frequencies, there's another way to do that we can look at later. So let me put this back at 44.1. Okay, so Let's add in some audio here, and then we can do a little bit of editing. So I'm going to go back to the browser, and I'm going to go to freesound.org. And so freesound.org is a website where you can download sounds that mostly are recorded by hobbyists. So people who like recording sound, just like the photography websites that we looked at, they're going to put their sounds online, and then people can use them. I use them a lot for games that I'm making. Like if I want to have some footsteps in a video game, but I don't want to go out and record them myself, I'll find them on here and download them and edit them, and I might reference them in the notes. So you do have to log in to be able to download. I can search sounds without creating an account, but if I want to download something, I have to create an account. But you don't. It's easy to create an account. So I'm just going to log in using my account. Hopefully, I remember my password. Okay. I don't have a very secure password for this account because I'm not really worried about people stealing it, because I don't have any credit card information or any personal data on here. So that's why I got that little warning, but that's okay. So let's say I'm making a podcast, kind of like my self-portrait. I'm going to say it's set at the beach, so I want to get like a nice beach sound. So I'm just going to search for a beach, and this will be kind of the intro. So I can do a little search. It's going to show me a bunch of different sounds. I can preview them here. It's kind of boring. This is probably closer. They're kind of quiet too. That sounds kind of cool, like you can hear the waves. So you can look through these. I can also specify certain things like licenses. I can look for only Creative Commons licenses. I can specify the type of sound file. Like if I only want to work with high quality wave files, I can click wave. Sample rate, bit depth, all the stuff that we've been talking about, you can see here. So I'm going to go with this wave thing here. It has decent rating. It's been downloaded 7,000 times, so people seem to like it. And it gives me some information about it. So it's a Creative Commons 0 license. That means like there's no restrictions at all. I don't even have to give attribution for this. So that's nice. But I also want to save this link, just like I did with my Photoshop files. So it tells me the type. Wave is good. That means it's high quality. And so even if I'm going to make an MP3 later, starting with a higher quality file is good because I can make a lower quality file later. If I start with a low quality file, I can't turn it into a high quality file. Their duration is 21 seconds. That's fine. If I wanted something longer, I could do something longer. File size is reasonable. It's pretty small. Bit depth is 24, so that doesn't match my project, but that's okay. It's not going to make a big difference. The sample rate is 44.1, which is what I want. That is going to match my project. That would create an issue if I had different sample rates. I'd have to convert one to the other. And then it's stereo, so that's good. So I'm going to click download and download this file. And that's going to take a second. And then I want to save this link. So I'm going to need to create some notes. So I'll use TextEdit for that. You guys can use whatever you want, whatever you write notes in. If it's Word or something like that. But I like TextEdit. It's really simple. So I'm just going to open up TextEdit. I don't like all the formatting, so I'm going to hit Command-Shift-T to just get a basic text document. And then I'm going to say this is my beach sound. And then paste my link in here. Okay, so remember, this is important to do because once we go back and publish these projects, you're going to need to give attribution like we did with our Photoshop. Technically with this one I don't have to give attribution based on the license that they use, but I still, I might want to do it just to be nice, and I still want to remember where this is. So I'm just going to save this as notes.txt in my audio project file. And so now I have a link to that sound if I ever want to go back and see it again. And I can remember where it is if I delete the file or something. Okay, so let's go back. So now I have this file. It downloaded. So if I go to Show in Finder, one thing that Freesound is a little bit annoying is that it has these really, really long file names because it has like a resource identifier number here, and then like the username, and then the name of the recording. So I'm gonna simplify this and just call this beach wave.wave, and I can drag this directly into my Audacity project. I want to make sure that I don't lose this file in case I need to edit later. So I'm gonna also make sure to put it in my project folder. You're also gonna have to submit your project folder for this one. So you're gonna want to, you're gonna want to make sure you do that. So I'm gonna go to the Finder and drag this from my downloads folder into Audio Project 1. So I have that there now. And now I can add this into Audacity just by dragging it. So if I go back to Audacity, I can go to Import and go to Audio and go to Desktop and find the file here. So it'll import that and make a new track. But I can also just drag it in if I want to. So I can just drag it from here. And there we see a new track. And so now if we play this back, they're going to be layered on top of each other. So it's kind of hard to hear in the speakers, but you can hear they're being layered on top of each other. And so now I can start to mix and edit. So for example, I might want the voiceover to come in later. So I can just drag this. So if I hover up here, you can see this turns into a little hand. So I can drag this over here. So now it'll play more of the beach before my voice comes in. Okay. I can make the beach quieter, or maybe I'll put it over in the left channel a little bit. So that way, it'll be more in the background. And so I can start to edit my layers together, or my tracks together. So I'm just gonna go over the editing tools for a second, and then I'll let you guys spend some time working on it. So most of the editing tools are up here in this top area. And if you hover over them, you can see what they are for. So the first tool, which is the default tool, is the selection tool. And this lets me do what it sounds like. I can select parts of my audio. That's really useful for editing. So for example, I'm going to select a section here, and I'm going to zoom in. And I have this little part at the beginning where I start talking and I say like okay or all right or something like that. So if I want to get rid of that, I can select it, and then I can just hit delete. Okay, that's going to move everything back to that point. The other thing I can do is remove special, and which one is it? I'll just try both of them. Split cut. So split cut is just going to take that part out and leave the track in the same place. I'm going to hit Command Z to bring it back. Split delete, I guess, does the same thing. That I'm not sure exactly what the difference is. Maybe if it was like in the middle or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, so those are the differences. If I hit delete, it's going to move the track back to where my selection is. I can also delete inside of a track. So if I wanted to take out, let's see, what do I say here? Okay, let's say, so here I say So let's say if I wanted to edit that out, I could select this section, and again, if I hit delete, it's going to move the whole track. If I go to edit and do split cut, it's going to split those two tracks and take out the middle. Let's see what happens if I do split delete. Okay, that does the same thing. I'm not sure what the difference is, but maybe we'll see it at some point. So I can make edits like that just by doing selections. I can also apply effects using selections, but we'll get to that on Thursday. So the next tool over here is the envelope tool. And this is a little tricky to use, but I can fade things in and out with this tool. So when I open the envelope tool, let's fade in our beach sound. So if I click, you see I get these little blue lines, and if I click on the blue line, it adds a little point, and I can fade the audio between these points. So if I bring this one down, I'm fading out the audio. I'm going to drag it over here, and if I bring this one up, then that's at the loudest. So now it'll be hard to hear since it's already pretty quiet, but it'll fade in instead of playing. So it's kind of hard to hear that, but the loudness is fading in over time. And then if I want to fade it out a little bit, once my voice starts, I could do something like that. So it's kind of hard to hear, but we can do different automation. The pencil tool, I can like draw on the track. I don't really want to do this because I'm probably not going to do anything useful with that, so we don't really need this tool. The zoom tool obviously zooms. We already looked at the zooming options up here as well. And then this asterisk is like the everything tool where it kind of tries to guess what you're trying to do based on where your mouse is. I don't really recommend using that unless you're like a pro. So we probably will mostly just use the selection tool and occasionally use the automate tool. So I think that's enough for today. We'll talk about a few more things on Thursday, but I think that's enough to get started. You can try recording, you can try editing some different sounds. You could also look at some of the other websites that are linked here. So the Internet Archive. This is a good place to get like music or old video, like old films, stuff like that. Creative Commons. You could find music on there or different sound effects and stuff like that. So you could look around on those websites and try to find audio. You could also just start thinking about what you would want the project to be and think about what you would need to record for that. So I think that's enough to get started. On Thursday, I'll go over a little bit about recording using your phone, and then I'll go over some effects that you can use in Audacity as well.